the concept self and time management in a crisis. And we have people who will be giving us insight to all this. Let me again say that we would appreciate that you give all attention to this process, because it's part of the new reasoning of capacity development in Lagos State. So on this note, I want to invite the Director Training to please introduce the moderator and our facilitator for the day, and we take it from there. Thank you.
Good morning, on behalf of Director Training, good morning, Honorable Commissioner. Good morning, PS. Good morning, moderator, and good morning, faculty, Mr. Onukuba. Good morning, everyone. You're welcome to today's session, which is the fourth webinar in the Resilience series. And today's topic is self and time management during crisis. And we have as today's moderator, Mr. Olufumi Ajose Harrison, from the who's the Director General of the Public Service Staff Development Center, and the faculty for today is Mr. Henry Onukuba from the Lagos Business School. Mr. Ajose Harrison, as we all know, is a seasoned human resource management professional and consummate capacity building expert, who is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, CIPM, amongst a couple of other institutes, and he has over 3 decades of practical experience in public service capacity building, research, learning and development, and corporate planning. He started his career at the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, ASCON, before joining the Lagos State government as the pioneer head of public planning and research at the PSSDC. He is currently the Director General of the Institute of PSSDC, as we know. And the faculty for today is Mr. Henry Onukuba from the Lagos Business School. He teaches human resource management, organizational behavior, and management communications at the Lagos Business School. And prior to joining the faculty team, he functioned in various other capacities, including executive education, and was also director of the MBA program. He was also the managing director of Hebron Consult, a human consulting firm, and taught people management at the Enterprise Development Center of the Pan-Atlantic University. Without much ado, kindly welcome, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ajose Harrison, the moderator for today's event. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, sir.
I'm on, sir. I would like to say a beautiful morning to all of us. I sincerely and wholeheartedly, on behalf of our Commissioner, Mrs. Ajibola Akinwole, and the entire family of the Ministry of Establishment and Training, welcome all of us to this fourth webinar series on self and time management. In times like this, business should still continue. So it's all about looking at best ways of continuing business during the crisis. And that's why today we will drink from the wealth of experience of our presenter, our erudite presenter, Mr. Henry. But before we go on, before we allow Mr. Henry to start his presentation, we would like to give our ground rules. Ladies and gentlemen, you have every opportunity of participating effectively in this webinar. If you have any questions along the line, you will see a button below. Press the button to allow you to raise your hand. So you click on raise your hand, and we know that you have a question. Then number 2, as much as possible, if you have other questions you want to ask, and you discover that you might forget very quickly, you can go to the chat button, click on the chat button, and type your question so that we know what you really want to ask us. And number 3, we also expect you to be very, very focused and meaningful, even in asking your questions, so that we go straight to address the issues you have presented to us. Against that backdrop, I would like to formally invite Mr. Henry to give us his presentation on self and time management during the crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph Harrison, and good morning, everybody. I must say it's my very big pleasure to be with you this morning and to share with you some thoughts on self and time management during crisis. I will start off immediately by sharing my screen, and then we will take on the discussion from that. I can see that we have almost 800 participants tuned in, so that's a very encouraging number. So, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, so we're talking about self and time management during crisis. Why is this important? It is important because for you to lead others, you need to lead yourself. And in this period of lockdown, we seem to have so much time in our hands and we don't know what to do with them. And this is the agenda. We'll talk a little bit about self-management. We talk about self-awareness. We also talk about self-management in crisis. And then we'll move on to time management. And then I will offer some practical tips on coping with the lockdown that we are presently in. And then we will conclude. You know, according to Albert Einstein, adversity introduces a man to himself, of course, a man and a woman. So in this adversity, this period of adversity, this period of crisis, there may be some aspects of ourselves that we are not aware of, which may become clearer to us to explore that route. So when you talk about time management is actually life management. If you're able to manage your time well, then you can manage your life, according to Robin Sharma. And it is not time management that matters most. It is self-management. That's my own thought. I think when you manage yourself, then you can manage your time. So we're going to start off with trying to take us through how we can manage ourselves in this moment of crisis. Well, we're in a crisis, so to say, because this is a situation that many of us never saw coming. So we're not prepared for it, but we just have to live through it. According to Peter Drucker, you cannot manage time. You can only manage yourself. So how do we manage ourselves? So let's look at self-management. Self-management can be defined as the capacity to understand yourself and your thoughts and feelings, and to use such knowledge in planning and directing one's life. Which means you need to understand yourself, you need to understand your thought process, your feelings, and then use that knowledge to plan and direct your life. And you see, you cannot manage yourself if you don't know yourself. So that's why it is important to talk about self-awareness. You can only manage what you understand. So let's look at self-awareness. And we'll define self-awareness as knowing your motivations, your preferences, your biases, and your personality, and understanding how these motivations, preferences, biases, and your personality influence your judgment, your decisions, and your interactions with other people. Now, don't think that it is easy to know yourself. Many of us actually don't know who we are. And actually, there's a process to knowing yourself. There are three things extremely hard. The first is steel, second, a diamond, and the third is to know yourself, according to Benjamin Franklin. So it's a process. And like I said earlier, if you don't know yourself, you can't manage yourself. But self-knowledge is important because only when you operate from a combination of your strengths and your self-knowledge can you achieve true and lasting excellence, according to Peter Drucker. So it's important that we know ourselves. And in the course of this presentation, we're going to run some polls. I hope my guys are ready. The first poll is to ask you, in your personality, it is made up of temperament and character. Now, which of these is permanent? If you can see the poll on your screen, I want you to tick which one you think is permanent, either character or temperament. If you can see it on the screen, please go ahead and we'll give you 1 minute to make your decision. Which of this is permanent in our personality? Is it temperament or character? Can you see the poll on your screen? Can you see the poll on your screen? Okay, we can take down the poll now if everybody has voted. Just take the one you think is correct and then submit. Okay, can we have the result? Is the result ready? Wow, 74% says character and 27% says temperament. Thank you very much for voting. So what it means is that you are in the right place because you are going to learn something new today. 74% of you are going to learn something new today, and that is that the permanent one is not actually character, but temperament. So temperament is your nature. It is fixed, it is inherited, it is developed at the early stage of your life, and it is constant. By the age of 3 years, 1, 2, 3, many of us are already who we are going to be for the rest of our lives. Our temperament, our nature is already formed at the age of 3. What we do all through our life is nurturing ourselves, character formation, building our character, becoming a better us. So our character is shaped by our actions, our decisions, our choices. Our character is changeable and it is controllable. Right from childhood, the kind of nursery school, primary school, secondary school that our parents send us to help us to shape our character. And when we become adults, the actions we take, the kind of friends we move with, the books we read, everything that we do, you know, even listening to this webinar is also part of character formation. Okay? So you have to be very careful, for instance, what you do in front of your children, your 1, 2 year, 3 year old children. because whatever you are doing, it's influencing who they are, who they're going to be. So don't think they are too young to notice. For instance, if a child grows up in an environment of love, he will grow up to appreciate love, appreciate friendship. But if he grows up in an environment where father and mother is always fighting and bickering, then he will grow up thinking that's the way of life. So our nature is influenced by our environment, is influenced by our background, but our character is influenced mostly by our own actions. So that's the first thing, okay? Now, so let's look at this temperament. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with these personality types, but this is the DISC personality type. Now, the Ds, so it means that every one of us have either belongs to a D, or is an I, or an S, or a C. We can be 2 or even 3 of it, but we must have a dominant one. So you can be DS or DC or DIC, but there must be a dominant one, right? So the Ds are demanding, they are direct, they are decisive, they are determined, they are doers. Is are inspiring, they are interactive, inducing, interested in people, impressive. S are supportive, they are steady, they are specialist, sensitive, and stable. White Cs are competent, careful, compliant, contemplative, and cautious. If you are aware of these personality types where you have choleric, sanguine, and the melancholy, the D is a choleric. And the D's catchword is "I'm what I achieve." The D wants to achieve, he wants to be in control, all right? While the I is a sanguine, and the I's catchword is "I am what people see." The I wants to be in the limelight. The I's are normally people who are in the corporate communication, PR, marketing. They want to be out there, you know, to be seen and to influence people. The S are phlegmatics, and their catchword is "and what I contribute." Now, the S in your organization may likely win your best, your longest service award, you know, because they will be there, they will be steady, all right? And then the C's are melancholy, and their catchword is "I am what I perfect." They are mostly perfectionists, okay? They want to cross the T's and dot the I's at all times. And the C's are normally, you have the engineers, the accountants, they are the C's, all right? So, what of managing self in crisis? Now, before we go into that, I would like us to do the next poll, which is, from what we have seen about the personalities, can you guess your own DISC personality? It's a guess because you have not done the assessment yet, but just take a guess. Where do you see yourself? Who do you think you are? Okay, in either the D, the I, the S, or the C. So you can start voting now. You can start voting. Just click 1 and submit. Okay, I think you should have been able to guess. So can we see the results? Can we see the results? Okay, let's move on while we wait for the results. So how do you manage yourself in the crisis? What do you need to manage yourself in crisis? You need to apply emotional intelligence. you need to apply emotional intelligence. What else do you need to do? So applying emotional intelligence means you recognize your crisis self when you are the lowest of your emotional intelligence. You know, what I call crisis self, when you allow crisis to get hold of you. And then you manage this, your crisis self, and substitute it with your best self, your high emotional intelligence. The second thing you need to do in this crisis is positive thinking. So before we move on, let's define emotional intelligence. It's basically the capacity to perceive, control, and express your emotions, and to decode and respond to the emotions of others. So there are two things. First of all, you need to perceive, control, and express your own emotions. So you need to be aware of your emotions, that's perception. You need to control it, and then act it in such a way that it will be. Okay, so we have seen the results. 33% are S, 26% are C, 21% I, and 21% D. Fantastic. So we have majority of S in the organization. And it's a very good thing to have, because it means that many of us are going to be in Lagos State government employment until we retire. Because S, like I said, are very steady people. They like to be in control. They like to be steady, and they love their jobs. These are natural leaders, so it's a very good thing that you have these also in the organization. And other personality styles are also good. So let's go back to the emotional intelligence. So you need to perceive, express your emotions, and then you need to decode and respond to the emotions of others, which means you need to understand what is going on inside your friends, your family members, and respond appropriately to those emotions. All right, that is what we mean by emotional intelligence. According to Peter Salovey and John Mayer, and also Daniel Goleman, the founders of emotional intelligence, it has 5 domains. The first domain is knowing yourself, which is self-awareness. The second domain is managing emotions, which is self-regulation. And the third domain is motivating yourself, which is emotional self-control. We are going to touch on these 3 in this presentation. The other ones are talking about relating with people and leadership, which have been discussed in other webinars. So for today, we're going to be talking about knowing yourself, managing yourself, and motivating yourself. So first, we have understood that we all belong to different personality types, and we have many different emotions that we need to manage. So let's look at our types in crisis. The D and I personalities. So let's start with the D. The D is motivated by authority, challenges to solve. The D is afraid of failure and loss of control. So in this crisis, those of us who are Ds are going to feel that we are losing control. We are no longer in charge. Even though we love to solve challenges, this is one challenge that is beyond us. So if we allow that to get into us, we are going to go into our crisis self. We are going to become aggressive. We're going to become bossy. We're going to become blunt. We're going to become restless, insensitive, irritable. However, if we're able to recognize that these emotions are negative emotions and we're able to work around it and manage ourselves better, we can bring in our best self, which is the high emotional intelligence. We can bring in our problem-solving self because we like to solve problems. We are strong-willed, we are decisive, we are result-oriented, and we are risk-takers. So these are positive things we can actually apply in this time of crisis. But if we sit down and begin to mourn our fate, we can go go down to our aggressive, bossy, blunt, restless, insensitive, and irritable self, and then we lose it. For the eyes, like I said, are very friendly people. They are motivated by a social relationship, by a friendly environment, but they are afraid of rejection. They are afraid of loss of social relevance. So in this period of lockdown, the eyes are wondering, what's happening to me? I can no longer go out, I can't meet with people, you know, I'm just asked to sit at home. So it's a problem for them because they want to be in the limelight, they want to be where things are happening. So if they allow that to get into them, they are going to be rash, they are going to be superficial, they are going to be erratic, they even be extravagant and superficial, all right? Now, if they get back to their best self, then they will become friendly, warm, enthusiastic, encouraging, charitable, optimistic, and they also have empathy. So this is the emotions by the right are the emotions we need in this moment of crisis. If we realize that if we allow this crisis to get to us, we will get to our crisis self, which is not a good one for us. Now let's look at the D and S personality. Okay, sorry, this should be the S and C personality. I think I should correct it here. Is the S and C personality. S and C. Okay, so the S personalities are motivated by safety, by security, and recognition. They love to be recognized for being part of the team. They are very loyal team players. They are afraid of insecurity. They are afraid of instability. They are afraid of loss of jobs. So in this moment of crisis, the S will be thinking of what is going to happen after this crisis. I'm going to lose my job. I may not have a job to do. So it's going to be affecting them. And if they allow that to affect them, they are going to become passive, docile, helpless, defensive, indecisive, and slow to adapt. However, if they can overcome that crisis and bring on their best self, they can become patient. You wait for this period to pass them by, become stable, they live their life normally, consistent, open, trustworthy, and dedicated. So even though we work from home, we can also be dedicated staff. Now the C's, like I said, they are perfectionists. They like high standards. They are governed by facts, rules, and procedures. They like to cross the T's and dot the I's. They are more likely the ones who are going to be looking at what is happening in the world, analyzing everything. They are following all the news. In fact, they will tell you the exact hour people are dying in Italy and France and Spain and US and Nigeria, all right? Now, that is their life. They love all these rules and facts, but they are afraid of conflict and criticism. So in this crisis, they might become critical, picky, unimaginative. They just sit down there. They don't think beyond the facts because this is time you become creative. They may become slow to act, resistant to change, and withdrawn. But if they allow their best self to be on, they will become detailed in the things they do, careful, meticulous, systematic. They will still maintain their high standards and they will be well organized. So this how this crisis could affect us if we allow those things in red. But if we are able to overcome it, then we can become what we call our best self. The next way to tackle this crisis is positive thinking. Positive thinking. Now, some of you may have seen this on WhatsApp and all that. I think there are many of them flying about, but I picked this one because I liked it. And it says, what do I choose to be during this COVID-19? If you find yourself on the fear zone, you are going to be searching and sharing everything you can find about COVID-19, looking for all the negative news. You know, you will get irritated easily. You will panic buy. You know, you buy things you don't need. You begin to act like a victim, looking for who to blame. And then you begin to hoard toilet paper, food, and medicines that you don't need. Of course, you know that many of us There are many that are suffering from overdose of chloroquine, all right? And we are told that COVID-19 does not have a cure. So why are you becoming your own doctor? You know, all you need to do is to manage it and rest, right? Now, if you move away from the fear zone and you go to the learning zone, you start to let go of things that you cannot control. You stop consuming harmful news, all right? You make a program of what to do with your time. You begin to manage your time better. You recognize that everyone is doing their best. The state government is doing extremely well to manage this situation, all right? While facing an extremely complicated situation. This is a complicated situation, yes, we know. Then you begin to look for opportunities, you know, beyond this COVID-19, what next? If you move to the growth zone, if you come to the growth zone, that's when you begin to think about others. How can I help? How can I assist? They are telling us, stay at home. Are you following that order? Because each time you go out there, you are becoming part of the problem. You live in the present with a clear picture of what is going to happen next. And then you take it that this is life, okay? And you be appreciative and be grateful that you are even alive to listen to this webinar at this moment. Let's take some positives from this COVID-19. This is the time to create what Jim Collins and Jerry Porras in their book, Due to Last, call big, hairy, audacious goals. You are back. The time to create your back. What we are saying here is that after this coronavirus pandemic, life continues. I personally don't believe that it's going to be the end of the world. I mean, this is not the first crisis. This is not the first pandemic, okay? And it may not even be the deadliest pandemic. It will not be. So life continues. What are you thinking about life after coronavirus? All the while you've been very busy with work, you know, going through the motions of work. Now is a very good time for you to sit down and think. Plan about what's going to happen to you as a person and to the organization, to the state government. What is going to happen? What are we going to do differently after this coronavirus? This is the time to learn new skills. You know, I've written 4 books by the grace of God, and I'm in the process of writing 2 books this year. But I discovered that I cannot type with my 5 fingers, you know. So I pick when I type, and it slows down my typing. So this is an opportunity for me to learn how to type with my 5 fingers. And thank God there are softwares, and free softwares on the net, which I could use, and I'm doing that. I put in 2 hours every day to learn how to type with my 5 fingers. You can also learn new language. If you have a machine, sewing machine in your house, which you have never used, this is time to bring it up, bring it out, and begin to learn how to sew, all right? There are so many things you can learn, all right? I have a small garden, and we used to have a gardener that comes around every week to mow the garden, but he can't come because of the lockdown. And I'm not the gardener, you know, with my guys, I go out there, and before I know it, I might even don't need him any longer. So many things you can do, all right? So it's time to learn new skills. It's time for you to get that desired rest. Lagos is very tough. Hustle and bustle of Lagos, okay? And every day we go through the motions of going to work, coming back. Now you don't have to get out. There's no traffic. That rest that you have been clamoring for, this is the time. Many of us may not have this opportunity of rest again for some time. Because even when you go on vacation, you spend so much time traveling, catching your flights, connecting your flights, you know, and when you go out there, you are going for shopping, going for all that, you don't even rest, and then the vacation period is over. You come back. But you are at home, nothing else to do but rest. And then for those of us who work from home, work from home. So this is a very good time to rest. It's time for family bonding. Fantastic time. You know, I have played cards, Ludo, Monopoly with my family. I have not done that in 1 year. All right. But now we have the time to sit down as a family to do that. All right. So it's time. Everybody's at home. It's also time to build and repair relationships. Now, if, for instance, a husband and a wife have been quarreling, now both of you are at home, you meet each other every day, you're at home 24/7. My dear, this is the best time to mend the quarrel and begin to become good friends again, fall in love again. Repair relationships that have been broken, use your phone, call up your friends, and build relationships while this lockdown goes on. It's also time to make your children earn their school fees. What do I mean by that? Now, a lot of us, we have our children, every day they go to school and come back, and with all the after-school lessons, they don't have time to do anything. So you end up doing most of the things for them. Even the breakfast they're going to eat in school, you prepare it for them and all that. Now they're at home. Let them enter the kitchen. Let them learn how to cook with you. Let them fix things themselves. Okay, I had a problem with my plumbing, with my tap the other day, and my son said, let's call the plumber. I said, we can't call the plumber cannot come. But I said, try and fix it. And if I knew it, he was able to fix it, all right? So this is a picture of breakfast prepared by my 9-year-old daughter. You know, I said, okay, go and prepare the breakfast. Every time we prepare the breakfast for you, you rush to school. And she prepared the breakfast, and you could see the cucumber. She designed it to say that smiley face. Now that's the way she wants to design it. And I said, very good. And we ate the breakfast. So it's time to make your children busy at home and make them look, feel responsible and, like I said, earn their school fees. Now, let's look at the other part of the personality, which is the nurture. So we have the nature, which is your temperament, and the nurture, which is your character, all right? Now, I don't know if I should go on or I should pause at this moment for questions, all right? Or should I go on? Okay. All right, so let's talk about habits. We're talking about character, then we must talk about habits. Habits are things we do. %90 of what you do on a daily basis are your habits. Sometimes you do them unconsciously, right? And then our habits form our character. Our habits form our character. It takes 3 to 4 weeks to form a new habit and to drop an old one. So this is a very good time for us to form new positive habits. And one of the habits we are going to see if we can form today is the habit of time management. Can we form new healthy habits to help us turn this situation into a positive one? All right? And then let's look at the habit of time management. How can we manage our time in this time of lockdown, time of the COVID-19 pandemic? Time management is a vehicle to take you from wherever you are to wherever you want to go, according to Brian Tracy. And time management requires self-discipline, self-mastery, and self-control. Like we said earlier, time management is life management. But you need to be self-disciplined, you need to manage yourself, master yourself, and you need to control yourself. Now, self-discipline is very difficult. It's easy to discipline others, but to discipline yourself is actually more difficult. Self-discipline is about self-leadership. It's the most difficult part of leadership, to lead yourself. Let's look at the nature of time. First, time is perishable. You cannot save time. So when you say, I have saved time, well, what you're just saying that I use time more effectively. That's what you're saying, or more efficiently. That's what you're saying. Because time is perishable. Time is consumable. You can only spend time. Today is gone. Right now is about 11:45 a.m. It will never be 11:45 a.m., 9th April 2020 again. It is gone. All right? And every second counts. Time is indispensable. Every action requires time. Every action requires time. It's indispensable. Time is irreplaceable. You can never bring back time. Once it is gone, it is gone. All right? And then time is sufficient. We have enough time. It all depends on how you use it. So when you say you don't have enough time, it means you have not used your time well. And thank God we only have 24 hours and nobody can add or subtract from that 24 hours. So time is sufficient. It depends on how you use it. Now, what you need to do is to master the usage of time. And I'll take you through some steps. First of all, you need to identify your most productive time. Many of us have different times that we are most productive. So you must identify, when am I most productive? All right? And then when you identify that, you do your most productive tasks at that time. So before this lockdown, I discovered that my most productive time was in the morning, before 12 o'clock. So as a faculty of Lagos Business School, one of the things we do is to write articles and we write books and all that. Okay, and I have a couple of books I'm writing, 2 books I'm writing and some articles I'm writing. So I said, if I'm not teaching every day when I come to school, between 8 or 8:30 when we resume and 11:30, I am writing. And during that moment, my phones are off, my email is disabled. And after I've used that 2 to 3 hours, then I can do other things because that's my most productive time at that time. Or I use it to prepare for my classes the subsequent days. Schedule your priorities, not your preferences. Now, when you are doing your to-do list, it is easier for us to schedule our preferences because our preferences are things that are easier for us to do, are more enjoyable for us to do, but they may not lead you to where you want to go to, you know? So schedule those things that are important, as are your priorities, all right? And this is the time to bring on the 80-20 rule of time management, which says that only 20% of the things you do daily account for 80% of your productive time. So you may have 10 things on your list. Actually, only 2 of them are very important. So first of all, do those 2 during your most productive time, then you can do the rest as the days go by. And time well spent is what we call return on energy. Return on energy, which means you are spending your energy more efficiently. And then you have to avoid time wasters. You have to avoid time wasters. Now, to lead you to this, we look at Franklin Covey's time management matrix. Now, Franklin Covey says that there are 4 aspects of time. There are those that are urgent and important. There are those that are not important but urgent. And there are those that are not urgent and important, and those that are not urgent and not important. So these are activities 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do our next poll, which is to ask you to identify which of these 4 boxes do you think you should be playing more in. Is it activities 1, urgent and important, or 2, not urgent and important, or 3, not important and urgent, or 4, not important and not urgent? So tick one and submit. All right, if you are submitted, we'll move on because we're also looking at our own time now. Okay. Fantastic. So 84% says urgent and important. 11% says not urgent and important. 4% says activities 3, and only 1% say activities 4. Fantastic. Okay, so let's see how right we are. Let's see how right we are. If you find yourself playing on urgent and important, these are crisis situations, pressing problems, deadline-driven activities, emergencies, last-minute preparations. Okay? You want to be in the crisis all the time? I don't think so. If you are on urgent and not important, these are interruptions, meeting other people's priorities because you don't have your own priorities, emails, some calls, some meetings, and some pressing matters. I'm happy that only 4% say they want to be here. If you find yourself in activities 4, this is when you watch too much television, when you are busyness, when you are busy doing nothing, you're just busy, Social media, you have all the social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, and you are there 24/7, okay? Emails, too many emails, chats, calls, time wasters, pleasant activities, things that are nice to do but will not lead you to your destination. So 84% said urgent and important. It's not the best, all right? I would rather advise that you find yourself more on the not urgent and important. This is when you begin to plan, build relationship, when you do things centered on your principles, when you recognize new opportunities, and then when you take a break, you go on recreation because your body needs to rejuvenate. So if you're able to plan your life, you will not get into crisis. If you plan your day, you will not get into emergencies or deadline-driven activities. Many of us will have something to submit, we wait until the last moment before we submit it, all right? Now, when you find yourself in activities 1, you are going to find yourself stressed out, you are going to burn out, crisis management, you will always be putting out fires, and you might meet your untimely death. This is when you now get heart attack or you just collapse and all that. For activities 2, you may have short-term victories. There will also be crisis management. You don't have a goal, no vision, because you are just doing other people's priorities. You lose control and you feel manipulated. And you also have low self-esteem. If you're on 4, you are leading an irresponsible life. You are an NFA, no future ambition. Okay? More haste and less speed. You're underproductive. You lose your job or you lose your business. All right? So you don't find yourself here, and I'm happy that there's only 1% that said they will be there. So if you find yourself in activities 2, this is when you have vision, when you have focus, when you are disciplined, when you are controlled. When you have control over your life, you can manage yourself and you manage your time. You are proactive, okay? Instead of being reactive, you have less crisis and you have work-life balance, all right? So what do you do for activities 1? These are necessities, you manage it. Activities 2, you focus on them. Activities 3, you apply caution, and activities 4, you avoid them. So this is our time management goal. This is where we want to be. We want to be in activities 2 most of the time. Agree, sometimes things might get into deadline, become deadline driven or emergency situation. Yes, sometimes we can have activities 1 in our life, a little bit of activities 3, but activities 4, you must eliminate it from your life entirely if you want to manage time very well. So this is our goal in managing our time, right? So the truth is that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your time management. Many of us miss out opportunities to become what we want to be in life because we have not managed our time well. Okay, you are preparing for your exam, for instance, and you didn't read well, and you don't pass the exam, and you miss that opportunity. You have a scholarship, and there is a very big exam to do, you didn't prepare for it, and you lose that scholarship, all right? So if you value yourself, you must show it in the way you value your time, because every second is important, every minute counts. And in this crisis, we seem to have so much time. What are we doing with it? So I'm going to start concluding by giving you some practical daily guide on how to cope with this coronavirus lockdown. And here we go. I guess everybody is working from home at this moment. So my first advice is that you maintain your usual routine. Pretend that you are working, you are still in a house or wherever your office is working. Wake up the time you normally wake up. Take your shower, do your prayer, have your breakfast as usual. All right? That's the first thing you need to do. Second thing you need to do is you keep fit. Now, we normally spend some time from our house to work and back. So you have enough time. Use that commuting time for exercise. And this is a picture of me exercising in my compound, all right? And if you don't have a compound to exercise in, if you live in an estate, you can exercise on your estate. I will not encourage you to go to the streets like we have seen on the television, because if you're exercising because you want to keep fit, you want to maintain your health, but when you go out there on the streets, you are actually endangering your health. So it's not working. I mean, it doesn't work out that way. So you can be creative. If you don't have a space to do your exercise, you can do it in your room. You can do push-ups, you can do squatting, you know, you can use your bed to do push-ups and squatting and all that. You know, you are not preparing for an Olympics. Well, even the Olympics have been postponed. All you are trying to do is to keep fit. So you don't want to do exercise so that you get tired and then you go to bed after the exercise. No, 30 minutes to 1 hour daily is what we recommend, all right? Third is dress for work. Dress for work. Dress as if you are going to work. Now, you may not put on your best work clothes, but at least dress neatly. Find a space for your office. All you need is a small table and a chair, all right? And even the way you position your table and your chair is also determine whether you are going to concentrate or not. Don't position it, for instance, facing the door, because if you position it, once ever somebody opens the door, you're going to be distracted. Find a way to make people know that you are at work. Either putting on don't disturb sign on your door, or you tell them, okay, each time I wear a red cap, it means that I don't want anybody to disturb me. Or each time I wear a red scarf, something like that, you know? So I know it's going to be tough because you are in your home, children are there, you know, and the family wants your attention, but you need to find time to work. Plan your day, have a daily to-do list. And the best time to have a to-do list for today was yesterday, all right? So before you go to bed today, Do your to-do list for tomorrow. What are you going to do? And like I said before, prioritize your list. Do not schedule your preferences. Schedule your priorities, right? So that when you, after the day is gone, you will feel that sense of achievement, right? Maximize your deep work hours, your most productive hours. Maximize those hours. Close from work as usual, because you want people, I mean, even though you're working from home, you still have to spend some time with your family. So close from work as usual. So if you usually close from work by 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., when it is 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., close from work. If you have done a 6-7 hours work a day in this lockdown, I bet you will have achieved much. Get some fresh air. You know, when you're at home like this, you're always indoors, you get moody. So get up from time to time, observe your usual lunchtime, take intermittent breaks, get out and see the sun, right? Or the moon, as the case may be. Now, it is advisable that don't sit down for more than 1 hour without getting up from your seat. Between 45 minutes and 1 hour, get up and stretch your legs, you know, because of health reasons. Maintain your mental health. Maintain your mental health, okay? So this is not time to, you know, find yourself listening to all sorts of news. Many of them are fake news and then sharing them yourself, right? The government is doing extremely good, and I must commend the Lagos State government at this junction for what they are doing. We're very proud of you guys. You are doing very well in fighting this coronavirus, but not all of us are in the forefront of fighting the virus. So just live your life normally, okay? And all you need to know is that, okay, things are happening. Don't begin to count how many people have died. It's not going to help you, right? And there are so many controversies, theories about so many things happening, you know, 4G, 5G, whatever. It doesn't concern you. Most of these things are speculations. So don't allow that to bother you. Rather listen to music, watch movies, watch sports. So when you put on the TV, maybe you listen to one news 30 minutes, listen to another one 30 minutes, tune off to something else, you know, so that your mind will not be talking about, you'll not be thinking about coronavirus all the time. Eat right. Now you are living a sedentary life, so to say. So I will advise you eat smaller portions of what you normally eat before and eat less of carbohydrates, bad carbohydrates. Eat more of fruits if you can afford it, if you can find them. Remember to eat early, all right, so that you can sleep better. Normally, it is good to eat 3 hours before you are asleep. It's more healthy, all right? Now, get enough sleep. You need 7 hours sleep, really. And this is a good time for you to get that 7 hours sleep. And if it is possible, go to bed at the same time as you used to go to bed, right? Remember, we are not on holidays. We are just on lockdown. We are supposed to be working from home. And even if you're not working, doing office work from home, you can work for yourself from home. You can do some things at home which will be useful to you. And remember, it's not all negative. This is time to clear your junks. I did mine about 5 days ago. I went into my store and things that have been there for the past 7 years that I've never touched. I cleared all of them, you know. This is time to look at your wardrobe. There are things that you needed to, you've been looking for time to arrange. This is the time to do that, all right? Well, if you have been planning to lose that weight, to lose your weight, what a good time to lose weight, okay? Now that you have to preserve whatever food you have and you eat less, you can lose the weight and do exercise. So it's a very good time for you. Read inspiring books, articles, stories, all right? Or begin to write one yourself. This is a good opportunity for you. Then develop a heart of gratitude. Thank God that you don't have coronavirus yourself. Thank God that you are alive and you are physically well to listen to this webinar. Thank God that Nigeria, as of today, is not so much affected by coronavirus. There are so many things you need to thank God for, even for the life of your family. So this is a good time to get closer to your Creator. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin to conclude, and I'll conclude with this quotation. Does thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of. And finally, all successes begin with self-discipline. It starts with you. Now, this is a webinar, and I've been speaking for, let's say, about 50 minutes right now. We cannot cover everything that we need to cover. We're going to listen to your questions. But however, if you want to know more about time management and personal effectiveness, there is an upcoming online course which I run at Lagos Business School. It's going to start on April 14. And if you're interested in this, we can let you know how to be part of it. It's going to be a 6-week course on personal effectiveness and time management. I'd like to say thank you for listening to me, and I'll now wait for your questions. Thank you very much. Mr. Joseph.
Hello. Well, I would like to say that was a fantastic presentation, a fantastic and awesome one, very amazing and really scholarly, because we had a lot of references, starting with Albert Einstein, going down to Salovey, including other gurus in the area of self-management and time management. Well, I would like to say a very, very big thank you to our presenter, Henry, for that wonderful job. Like you said, we still need to cover a few more grounds. We cannot finish everything on this webinar, but it's good to say that we have listened with very rapt attention and have gained tremendously. Well, I want participants to please listen to this recapitulation. We started with 7 items and we are ending everything with 12 takeaways, 12 take-homes in big titles. The first one is looking at what we mean by self and time management. A reference, and indeed, was made to Robin Sharma, who defines time management as life management. And going further, Harry told us that Peter Drucker also agrees with Robin Sharma by saying that when you manage yourself, then you can manage time pretty well. So the main thing we are looking at now is the fact that we need to really manage ourselves. Once we are able to manage ourselves, then we can manage time effectively, efficiently, and economically. He went on to also look at self-management very quickly. He defines that as the ability to know yourself. He talks about self-awareness, talks about your temperament, your preferences, your biases, what motivates you, and indeed, your personality. And he took all of these from the ideas of Benjamin Franklin, who also says that there are 3 things difficult to do. And that means they are hard to be able to get around, they are hard to be able to crack. Number 1 is steal, the second one is diamond, and the third one is self. It's tough and hard for us to really understand ourselves. But once we're able to appreciate the fact that we're pretty determined, so that we look at what our strengths are and we look at who we are. It's when we know what our strengths are and who we are that we know our true personality. Then we went on with the presenter to look at who you are. And whether you are somebody who's temperamental or whether you are another person who is defined by his character. And the result came out to be that people thought if they are people of high character, it would be a good thing. So we had funny results. 25.3 chose character, and okay, so sorry, let me take it again. 74.7 chose character, while 25.3 chose temperament. But the real truth of the matter is that you are defined by your temperament, not really by your character. Then we also went on to look at some personality types with the acronym DISC. D stands for one who is decisive, I stands for another person who is influencing, S stands for stable personalities, and C stands for people who are careful and cautious. And in actual fact, we had to do a matching between 4 other personality types called choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, and melancholic. For the D, the decisive people, they are more of choleric people. Choleric people get angry quickly. The influencing personality could best be described as sanguine. And as the sanguine people are really friendly. Then the stable personality that's supportive could also be best described as phlegmatic. That's sluggish to really get angry, but they can decide to do what is right slowly too. While the C, the last type, could also be equated with somebody who is a melancholic. So we have decisive choleric, influencing sanguine, stable phlegmatic, and careful melancholic. And it brought us to another question of who you are. At the end of the day, the results proved new things for us. It's better for us to become more of stable personalities rather than becoming just careful personalities. But again, in the public service, these two are still okay. When you are stable, we have 33% of those who chose that on the poll. And we also have 23% of those who chose being careful, being cautious. And that's a good one for the public service of Lagos State. Then going to the next point, which is the fourth big item. How do we manage ourselves in crisis? The presenter told us about 5 domains of emotional intelligence, but he gave 2 major ways of managing ourselves during crisis. The very first one being your level of emotional intelligence, and the second one being positive thinking. So he admonished us to use our emotional quotient very, very well, because EI is key. You are looking at your own emotions, and at the same time, you are looking at the emotions of others. So trying to ensure that you respect the balance between your own emotions and the emotions of other people. So to manage yourself in this kind of situation we have found ourselves in the whole world, this COVID-19 situation, it's very, very important for all of us to look at what we call our level of emotional intelligence, and again, our positive thinking stride. The presenter went further to look at things that can help us achieve this. For the decisive, he has his own motivators, his own fears, his own crises, and what can be best for him. But for the decisive personality, the best for him is to continue to forge ahead. For the influencing personality, the best for him is to continue to be very friendly in times like this, because he has high emotional quotient. And for the stable personality, the best for him is to become more perseverant, because he has a persevering nature. And for the fourth one, the the careful personality, looking at this again, the best that can happen to him is to continue to become copious, detailed, analytic, continue to look at facts and work with facts. And these are things that will be very, very well. Then, looking at who we choose to be during COVID-19, are we afraid because we are looking at 3 zones? Are we learning or are we growing? But the presenter told us that it's better to appreciate the fact that, yes, fear could come in, but again, we must learn from the situation and grow. Look at how we can give, positive answers to challenges. We should just behave like people who see situations, yet they still have that faith, they have that belief and confidence that they're going to surmount the situations. So we should behave like that and see ourselves like that. However, some positives for public servants in COVID-19 situation include some of the points I will read according to Jim Collins and Jerry Porras. 1, find time to create your big, hairy, audacious goals. Number 2, find time to learn new skills. Number 3, find time to get that desired rest. Number 4, find time
We seem to have lost Mr. Harrison.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello.
I think he's
while
okay, he's back. He's back.
I want to go to the question and answer so that we could cover sufficient time and leave on time. The presenters let me just pick 1 or 2 and then you respond. Somebody says, is anger part of character or temperament? That's the question from Shola Masheyi. Is anger part of character or temperament? And another person is asking that what is the role of motivation in shaping people's temperament? If you can help us take those 2 first, then we continue.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Let me start by first saying that no personality type is better than any other one. You just knowing who you are, which is the first step to managing yourself. So whether you are a D or an I or an S or a C, you are as good as God has created you to be. No one is better than the other. In fact, one of my most quoted quotes is that the worst original is better than the best imitation. So never you try to imitate somebody else. The point is that know who you are and then know how your emotions play out, okay? Now, anger is not a temperament. Anger is part of our emotions, which we can either control or allow it to control us. Everybody can get angry, all right? Now, character formation is so that you now recognize that, okay, I'm prone to anger, but actually I can do something about my anger, all right? So if this was a class on emotional intelligence, we go through how to control your anger. But if you're emotionally intelligent, you will understand when you are angry and you don't act from your anger, because when you act from your anger, you will most likely regret your action. One of the things you will do when you are angry is that you don't speak or act immediately you are angry. If somebody has made you angry, you can begin to count in your mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? By the time you get to 50, what you will have done at the count of 1 or 2 will be different from what you will have done at the count of 50, because you'll have had time to analyze the situation and then respond adequately. So that's it. Anger is part of understanding your emotions and controlling it. Everybody is angry. Everybody can be angry. Anger is not the problem. What is the problem is what you do with your anger. All right? So that is one.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Let
Role
me
of
take
motivation. No, role of motivation.
Yes.
All right? Now, that is where leadership comes. But you remember when we shared the 5 domains of emotion, we said the third one is self-motivation. Now, when we talk about leadership, leadership starts with leading yourself. When you lead yourself, you will understand when you need to motivate yourself. So sometimes you don't have to wait for people to motivate you. You need to motivate yourself. For instance, we're all at home, okay? Most of the things we do now in this lockdown, we have to motivate ourselves to do it. You know, even the exercise we're talking about, you need to get out of the bed, motivate yourself. You need to pick up something to read. It's all about self-motivation. However, if you are a leader, one of your major jobs as a leader is to motivate others. So let me leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly take another 2 or 3 set of questions because we have a whole lot and time is of the essence. Somebody says, is there a difference between self-control and self-discipline? Then another person, we want to know the importance of mindset, discipline, and attitude in time and self-management. And the third one, which I will just speak to before you respond, is somebody said, if we say there is no cure to COVID-19, what is happening then at the isolation centers? Maybe just for our enlightenment, up to this moment, there is no defined drug that can cure coronavirus. But what is being done is to apply different sorts of treatment and health management to stabilize those people and bring them out of that state. The moment they test negative twice after doing all sorts of treatments and exposure to health management, they are declared as free and then released to go home. So, sir, you can take the 2 questions for us again. Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
I'm with you.
Can you hear
Hello?
the questions?
Yeah, I heard the questions.
Yes, can you just take it for us?
Okay.
Self-control and self-discipline.
I got it. I got them. So even before I speak to the questions, the last point about coronavirus, it's also good to enlighten us. What happens, why we said we should all be at home, is that if you have the virus and it is a mild symptom, you can actually be at home and sit through it. In 2 weeks, you can actually get rid of the symptoms yourself without spreading it to others. So sitting at home doesn't mean that some of us may have the symptoms, but we don't know. But we don't want you to go out there to spread it to others. So sitting at home, you can have the symptoms, and through rest and self-management, you can actually get well without going to any isolation center. Okay, back to the question. Self-control is part of self-discipline. It's a subset of self-discipline, right? Self-discipline is the holistic thing. You need to be disciplined to be able to control yourself. And self-control comes in many aspects. It could be food, it could be drinks, it could be the way you spend your time, okay? You could tell yourself, I'm not going to look at my phone for 6 hours or for the whole day. That is self-control, all right? So self-control is part of self-discipline. Now, importance of mindset, discipline, and attitude in times of management of time. We said it here that it all begins with being able to master yourself. But we went through this self-awareness exercise because you need to know yourself before you can master yourself. If you don't know who you are, how can you control yourself? So the first is to know yourself, right? For those who are interested, actually an assessment you can do to know whether you are a D or I or S or C. And then that assessment result will tell you how to manage yourself, your relationship with others, and all that. So all of this we all come with different attitudes. But if you are emotionally intelligent, you'll be able to recognize when you are exhibiting negative attitude and then easily correct it, because we are all capable of being good, being our best self, just like we're also capable of being our worst self. So in times of crisis, if you don't watch it, you end up going to your worst self, because you have filled yourself with negative thoughts. You think the world is going to come to an end. You are blaming somebody else for the problem. Of course, so this is what we're talking about. You need to understand that now more than ever, you need to manage yourself and manage your time. Thank you. Mr. Bamboye, I'm done with the questions. Any more questions? Hello? Okay, let me go to the questions myself.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Henry, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going through the questions myself, unless somebody wants to help me.
From the admin deck, we would like you to help take live questions.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, we have Ibukun Dosunmu and Abiodun Afuye on the line. So we'd like to release them to ask their live questions from you.
Okay, go ahead.
So Ibukun Dosunmu has been permitted to talk. So she's been unmuted. So Ibukun Dosunmu, you are live.
Ibukun is still muted. She's still muted. Abiodun.
Okay, Abiodun Afuye can ask his own question.
Okay, they are still muted. Can I answer some of the questions I see on the Q&A?
Okay.
Somebody is asking, is there a difference between a manager and a leader? Every leader may be a manager, but not all managers are leaders. Leadership is a higher form of management, okay? So you can be a manager and a leader at the same time, but you may not be a manager. You may not be a leader just because you're a manager. Managers take things or processes of things. Leaders lead people. So this time of coronavirus, for instance, this is the time we call for leadership. Leadership is inspiring, okay? A manager looks at what it is and how to manage it. A leader looks at what is going to happen and how to prepare for it, right? So that's the difference, basic difference between a leader and a manager, right? Then somebody said, let me see. There are so many questions here. Where does positive attitude and self-motivation, where is the place of positive attitude and self-motivation in a challenging environment?
Okay, sir, before you respond to that,
okay.
We have a live question from Agbano Adedayo.
Okay, Agbano, please ask your question.
Okay, Agbano Adedayo,
please ask your question, Agbano.
Yes, good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Please, good afternoon. I want to know, one of the characteristics of a leader
is the characteristics of a leader.
Go ahead.
That's his question. He wants to know the characteristics of a leader.
Oh, that's the question.
Yes. Yes.
There are so many characteristics of a leader. Okay. First, I will just pick that's what is called level 5 leadership. Not everybody gets to that level 5 leadership, and that's humility. One of the best characteristics of a leader is humility. And then intense positive will. So a leader must know where he's going to, but he must also be a humble person, because leadership is about bringing out the best in people. And you must make yourself such that you will be appealing to others. Okay, there's a difference between a boss and a leader. Many of us are actually bosses. We are not leaders, all right? A leader is such that you are going to inspire people, because leadership is about inspiration. If you're not able to inspire people, then people are just going to be doing eye service, working only when you are around. You know, they are not owning the process. They are not owning the vision. They are just trying to please Oga or please Madam. Then you are not a leader, you're a boss, right? So you must have to be able to inspire people. First, you must have a vision. Where are you going to? And then you must lead people willingly. They must go with you on that journey, all right? And then you have to be humble. So there are so many characteristics, but let me just leave it at that for now. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, I believe then we have Abiodun Afuye. I don't know if it's live.
Abiodun Adefuye.
Adefuye, sorry. Okay. We have Adebowale Bakare. Adebowale Bakare.
Yes, I'm here. I'm with you.
Okay, go ahead with your questions. Thank you.
Yes, I want to ask, I think there have been previous editions of this kind of training that has been hosted in the past. I think this is the 4th edition, if I'm correct. So I want to know if it's going to be available to other public servants who are yet to get the information that this kind of training is going on. Will it be available for them subsequently, sir? Thank you.
Absolutely. It will be available. Thank you. So we have Olowo Joba Badeni. Maybe he has a question. Okay, Adebowale Bakare. Okay, please, sir, you can pick any about one question so that we can wrap up, sir.
I see a question here. It says, in as much as you try to manage your time in order to get things done at the right time, and the usual traffic from Ikorodu to Ketu and from Shango to Ikeja, you are constrained, and you still need to sleep well. How do you go about it productive at work? Well, this presentation is about managing yourself and your time in times of coronavirus pandemic. And one of the things we said is that you actually have so much time now to do things you wanted to do before. And one of the positives from this coronavirus lockdown is that you don't have traffic any longer. There's no traffic to face, right? So that time you used to commute to work and back, it's a good time for you to do something positive, something productive. However, if I should answer your question directly, when you are in traffic, what do you do with your time? Okay, if you are the one driving, do you have an audio book playing on your radio? I mean, your car set, or you're just listening to all sorts. So your commuting time, if you are driving, for instance, you can actually get an audio book and slot in the CD and play. If you are being driven, you can read something very nice, all right? You can even walk with your phone, right? Now, if you are in a bus, you can also read, right? Get a headphone so that it saves you from the noise outside. You can read something from you can download reading materials on your phone, all right, either audio or written materials, and read while you're in traffic. So anytime you find yourself in traffic, you can't do anything about it, but you can find something productive while doing that. Now, this is Lagos. You should be able to know the traffic situation in your area and know when to go to work, all right? Now, if traffic starts, let's say by 5:30, why can't you leave by 5 o'clock? You leave by 5 o'clock, you will have beaten all the traffic, you get to work refreshed, then you come back home. Again, this is where flexible work hours will come in, but this is not for you to say because it is something that the organization has to look at. Flexible work hours, right? Must everybody be on the road at the same time and come back at the same time? So watch the traffic in your area and know how you can manage that traffic to be able to get to work on time and come back refreshed. But you still need to sleep very well so that you'll be more effective the following day. So I hope that answers your question. Tolulube Tajelawi. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry. You've given us a full diet on self and time management during crisis. We believe very strongly that you have actually brought into perspective a lot of experience, which you have also made very obvious in the presentations that you did. On behalf of the state government, particularly under the able leadership of Mr. Governor, we want to thank you for having offered us your wealth of experience and time at these very demanding times. Also, we would want to appreciate our moderator, our own, Mr. Ajose Harrison, for doing justice to the entire moderation process. Let me also thank all those who had worked from behind, particularly staff of the Ministry of Establishments, Training and Pensions, and administrators who are actually giving a lot of support to ensure that we have each free presentation. I must tender unreserved apologies, particularly for some hiccups that we have. It's just a reflection of the kind of service that we get from our service providers. Finally, I want to, on behalf of the Honorable Commissioner, appreciate all of you for being online. In fact, today we have recorded over 1,000 participants online eventually. The Honorable Commissioner was unable to join because she has to, on behalf of the state government, to receive some of the supports that we are getting from individuals and corporate organizations in tackling this COVID-19. Finally, let me say that we are all ambassadors of government, and at this time, we must ensure that we manage ourselves very well. Let's manage our time too, and let's manage everyone that's around us to ensure that we come out of this adversity stronger and better. For those who are asking that will there be documents for this, be assured we will send it to you. You will get those documents, and we will ensure that we also capture others that have missed out in the course of it. Once again, I want to thank all of you for having given us your time and for believing in us that there should be life and there should be business continuity in adversity. Once again, thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to Lola Dave.